When you search for Fibonacci trading strategies on YouTube, you'll find a lot of videos like these. According to Trading Lab, Fibonacci is the best tool ever. According to the moving average, this is the best Fibonacci trading strategy. And according to Trade Prime, this strategy always works. Now, I'm not saying that these guys are wrong, but I haven't seen a single video that shows any proof. So today, I'm putting Fibonacci retracements to the test with statistics.
Yay!
To test if Fibonacci trading really works, we need to do three things. First, we need to understand how Fibonacci levels are supposed to work. Then we can use that information to formulate a testable research question. The last step is designing the right test to answer our question. So let's start with step 1. How are Fibonacci levels supposed to work? Depending on who you ask, there are three possible mechanisms. Some people say that Fibonacci levels act as magnets for pullbacks, meaning pullbacks are more likely to reverse at these levels. The second possibility is that Fibonacci levels act as support and resistance, meaning that price is more likely to bounce at a fib level than to break through it. That sounds similar to the first mechanism, but it's a subtle difference that leads to a completely different test. The third possibility is that a pullback near a fib level signals trend continuation, meaning price is more likely to keep moving in the original direction afterwards. There are probably other mechanisms out there, but from what I could find, these are the three main ones. Now that we have our three mechanisms, we can turn each one into a hypothesis and design a test for it. So in total, that means 3 mechanisms, 3 hypotheses, and 3 tests. Let's go through them one by one. Our first idea is that Fibonacci levels act as magnets for pullbacks. So how do we turn this into an objective hypothesis? Here's my thought process. If Fibonacci levels really do attract pullbacks, then we should see pullbacks reversing at fib levels more often than at other levels. In other words, do the lows of pullbacks cluster around the 38.2 and 61.8% retracement levels of the previous move up? Now we have an objective and testable hypothesis. There are other Fibonacci levels as well, but these two are the most common ones, so I'll focus on these. To test our hypothesis, we can graph the frequency of pullbacks at each retracement percentage. If the hypothesis is true, we'd expect our graph to look something like this, with 2 clear peaks at the Fibonacci levels. So let's run the test. First, we need a function to find the highs and lows in our data so that we can objectively define what counts as a pullback. To do this, I'm using a directional change algorithm. This function finds alternating highs and lows based on a volatility threshold. As you increase the threshold, the function finds fewer and more significant swings. I'm not going to go into it here since it's not really the focus of the video, but if you're interested in the details, check out this video by NeuroTrader. Once we have our highs and lows, we only need a few more lines of code to make our graph. To keep it simple, let's only consider pullbacks in an uptrend. We can define this objectively as any low that has a high before it and a higher high after it. Then we just calculate the retracement percentage for each of those lows and plot the histogram. As you can see, there are no clear peaks around 382 or 618. Sidebar, if you're wondering why the frequency is so much lower for the smaller retracement values, it's just because our code doesn't count lows as pullbacks until they've retraced more than our threshold. So that's not a useful finding, just a result of the approach that we took. But getting back to our hypothesis, this graph does not show us any evidence that Fibonacci levels act as magnets. We could do some kind of statistical test to see if these bars are on average significantly higher, but in a case like this, I don't think we need to. Even if there is some tiny difference that we can't see with the naked eye, a signal this weak is not worth trading. I tested this on 6 months of 1-minute Bitcoin data, but feel free to try this on your own market. As always, the code is linked in the description. But for now, we can say that this hypothesis is false. Also, if you're finding this useful so far, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Let's move on to the next idea. The second possible mechanism is that fib levels act as support and resistance, meaning price is more likely to bounce at a fib level than to break through. This is similar to the previous mechanism, but not exactly the same. To make this question purely objective, we can treat each Fibonacci level as a tiny range of a few percentage points wide. Then we can check every time a candle closes inside the range, whether the next candle close is above the range or below the range. If it's above, it counts as a bounce, and if it's below, it counts as a penetration. And if we do this across the whole dataset, we can calculate a bounce rate for each Fibonacci level. To test if the Fibonacci bounce rates are better than random, we can repeat the exact same process for every possible range between 0 and 1. That gives us a baseline to which we can compare our Fibonacci results. So now we can phrase our objective hypothesis like this. Is price more likely to bounce at Fibonacci levels than at other levels? If our hypothesis is true, we should again see a graph like this, with peaks around the Fibonacci levels. The difference with the first test is that here we're measuring bounce rates instead of pullback frequencies. So let's run the code and see what the real graph looks like. Just like in the first test, we don't see anything interesting around the Fibonacci levels. And again, we could do a test for statistical significance, but I don't think we need to when the graph looks like this. So we can cross the second mechanism off as well. Let's move on to our last idea. The last possibility is that a pullback near a fib level is a signal of trend continuation, and that price is therefore more likely to continue in the original direction afterwards. This is already close to a testable hypothesis. We just need to define how we measure trend continuation objectively. In this case, I think it makes sense to measure the distance from the pullback to the next high. So we're measuring the length of the next leg up. To adjust for volatility, we can divide the distances by the average true range. Now we have our objective hypothesis. Is the next leg up longer when the pullback low is near a Fibonacci level? And the test is really simple. For each retracement range, we calculate the average size of the next move up, and then we plot the data in a graph. Once again, the graph shows nothing special at the fib levels, so we can cross off our last hypothesis. So if none of our hypotheses are true, does that mean Fibonacci levels are useless? Well, maybe. In theory, it's still possible that they work, but just not in any of the ways that we tested. But what we can say is that the claims made by these YouTubers are not supported by the data. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe. It really motivates me to make more videos. As always, the code is linked in the description. Thanks for watching, happy trading, and I will see you in the next one.